rises, the kingdom is as it was, as it always has been. The Emperor returns from battle, defeated in foreign lands, yet still atop their throne. Yet as the Emperor gazes over the spoils of their past victories, a darkness outside is stirring.
Exceptional as Paz goes golden, but isn't going to be able to buy enough time. There was the possibility of a new Shogun, of a new Emperor, but DFM reigns supreme and are your LJL champions.
The walls seem to be shrinking as one foot steps forward from the void. The silhouette of the helmet's horns sharp against the rising sun. They've entertained thoughts of usurpation before, but this time those walls seem a little weaker.
The Hawks are so split in this fight. Marble can't do a damn thing. Finally going into the wall. Jet, you beauty! Takes down Hawks himself. Says, buddy, get the hell away from my team.
A double for Honey! This man, this myth, this legend of the bot lane! It's the LJL, I said it before, I'll say it again, oh sugar! He ices the team fight!
He's gonna get the rocket, not just quite onto the Nexus, but bring on the Silver Scrapes! Teleport to the minions, Sengoku are forcing it!
Bruised, bloody, scraped, but they are bleeding silver! Sengoku Gaming will make the reverse sweep dream a possibility! We are going to Game 5!
Another steps out, a challenger familiar with this place. Their piebald face presenting an unsettling grin, a regicidal jester hiding behind the makeup.
Throws down the chompers onto that stopwatch, which means the Diana can't get out. Yaharong is here, but the fight gets split. Emmy is already dead. He didn't use the ultimate, and now Rascal Jesters are looking to keep it going. Secret going forward, the flash over the wall from Soul, and Yaharong goes down. Eno grabs the kill. Soul gets another.
But Secret has the stopwatch available. You cannot find him. That's the top laner for DFM gone in exchange for the support. And look at the revive on the Jinx. It's so perfectly timed. Jinx comes out to find the double kill. Now it's Yaharong getting forced back. They can crack another inhib here, or they can just go for the game. Soul continuing to chat out. He finds Hecarim as well, and they will find the game. They topple the undefeated record here in the LJL. New Rascal Jester. They have done it.
One by one, they all step out. 7 challengers to the throne.
Casino's here as well. That's the flash charm. No cleanse, no hope. Nema will fall down as well as here comes Kaido, but he is late to the party. Kassin rooted up, tries to heal up with the gold trigger, and actually turns it around to double kill for Kassin. And now CGA could start to play it out. Unica diving forward onto the graves, doing so much damage as he flashes into the bush to get a triple kill. How are you still alive, Kassin? A quadra kill?
Looking for Baron. Unica's not there, so there is no smite steal availability.
Yeah, no, indeed. Yu-Gi-Oh is gonna have to try and do something. He will! What? He steals it! No universe where this should happen! And he walks off, he waddles off, hits him with the 1-2. And he's out of there, bro.
Oh. Yeah, Dice is going to go into recap. Gonna go golden as well. Flawless. Dice into the backside of like keep your eyes on to Dice. And Soul is going to get knocked up. Dice still staying alive in the backside. Yuki is going to take the recap and Soul. He's trying to shut down. Dice is able to find the biggest kill for Burning Core in this series so far. And Dino's dead. Clean ace.
Do anything. Yaharong is going to play goalkeeper. They might be able to get there in time. The charm only lands onto the Nautilus, who is not the target that you need to get out of the pit, but Steel just turns it so quickly. DFM pull the trigger in an instant and have already got themselves a kill. This is going to be the last fight of the game, and it is going to be all DFM. Heavy with a double kill already. Honey's going to get picked off as well. Jet, the last man standing, trying to run away on this guy's, but he's not going to be able to do it. Flashes directly.
The Emperor gazes down upon these challengers, and a smile spreads across their face. After all, they're no stranger to this war. The Emperor steps down from their throne and beckons the rising sun to shine down on the 7. Swords drawn, fists raised. The battle is about to begin.
Okay, chills, let's go! Let's bring it up the hype. It's DFM saying, Goku people, this is the match that you've been waiting for all day. The grudge match that's coming down. This is for the potential first
place. It's early doors, but the podcast, they've talked about Sengoku, they've talked about DFM. Now I want to hear you guys talk about it. Middle court, what are you making of this matchup?
Well, man, it's a rematch of our spring grand final, baby. That grand final that went to all 5 games for the first time in what feels like years. Detonation FocusMe have got a couple challenges in the LJL that look damn good. Sengoku played amazing in spring and are even some people's predictions in summer to take the entire split.
Yeah, and Oak for you too. Obviously, Sengoku have been coming through. They pushed DFM in the past, but DFM have always been the stronger team. Do you feel like this could be the split? The Sengoku turn it around?
I'm very hopeful. I'm a big Sengoku fanboy, and looking at how this team may come into summer with the changes from durability patch, as well as Honey being one of our standout members from spring, now strengthened by this meta, which benefits him so much. You can see our predictions down below. You see I'm the only one rooting for Sengoku here, because I feel like this team, especially with Pads, who I think has been the most secure top lane, and a meta where top lane doesn't necessarily, there's a lot of ways to avoid harder matchups nowadays. This is going to work so well for this team. I'm so excited to see how they perform today.
Top lane, maybe not mattering as much, but it's DFM. It's Ebby. Middle court, surely you can't say that it's not going to matter.
Exactly. This is the problem that we've had with matching up teams against DFM for so long, because I think you've got a fair point, Oak, and I think across the rest of the map there are a lot of teams that have these pieces that can match and even surpass DFM in a number of cases. I mean, we talk about Honey and Soul being sort of consistently a little bit higher than Utapon in terms of our estimations or our evaluations of them as players, but Ebby has just been so much better than every other top laner in the LJL for so long. And whilst top lane, yes, it's a little bit weaker on this patch, I still feel like he's the guy who can bring out something a little bit spicy and really turn the screws on Sengoku.
But flipping it around, I think we've just been told we got pick and bans. We have pick and bans. Well, I was going to talk about the rest of the team, but it does not matter. Let's get it underway, baby. Last game of the day. DFM, Sengoku, take us through.
We saw you in chat spamming cast to start the game, and we thought we'd get it on your screens ASAP. DFM banning away the Lee Sin, the Ahri, and the Aphelios. A little bit old school with those. Wow. Sengoku more focused on these AD carries that have been rising in priority.
Yeah, and Lee Sin's been a pick very specifically in LPL, which has still managed to remain in the meta and once a notorious Lee Sin from previous splits. So they're very eager to take that off the board. Now, I think you touched on it on a little bit there, but Ebby basically in a pool of his own within top lane. And there are 2 key picks which I think could really separate him if he wants to fulfill that carry position with this team. And that's the GP and the Gwen, who Gwen, even after 12.11 nerfs, still pretty much holding strong as one of the top tier picks in top lane, and the GP on top of that, something that Ebby having an entire pool of champions available for him, I'd really love to see him pilot towards that.
As we did see the Senna locked in for DFM that first pick, probably going to be going towards Harp, who does have a little bit of a champion ocean, although I'm sure Utapon wouldn't mind pulling that one out either. Wukong going to be a response. Feels like it's the jungler that a lot of the teams are prioritizing.
Yeah, it's a default pickup at the moment. It's one of the few junglers that manages to get through bans nowadays, and it will be an easy look in Sengoku because it fits into such a variety of builds. Now, you touched on the Senna real quick, and I just want to know that 12.11 as well also introduced changes to her soul spawn rate on kill, which means that it's a lot easier to slot her into AD carry and still get those soul stacking if you need to.
And I feel like this time, Kench, maybe it's a small response to the Senna, because we do traditionally see them paired together in that bot lane, is going to be the Viego taken for Steel, a pick that he didn't have much success on at MSI, but still a good matchup into the Wukong.
Yeah, and combine that with Karma, they seem to be very eager to lean into a very aggressive lane within this bot side. Now, you mentioned the Kench. I think this immediately points to Sengoku looking towards one of these more vulnerable, heavy AD carry presence. Something like the Jinx could very easily be slotted in here. Even something like the Cog. Now, a lot of people have been talking about Cog more and saying that actually Twitch functions a lot better within that position. The Jinx gets locked in instead. very happy to see this slotted in, and you can see already Sengoku forming around their AD carry, around Honey. Now, this does give them also the opportunity to still opt into counterpick for Jet as well. So they're fulfilling both their criteria at the moment. I feel like the real way to unlock Jet is to give him access to counterpick. He was one of our highlighted players from last split. MVP status for this player personally. I want to see him get a good matchup into Yahoo.
Yeah, who didn't have the best of MSIs and has looked a little bit shaky of points. So I think, yeah, definitely a matchup that Jet can look to play aggressive and look to be this sort of part of the two-pronged attack that Sengoku have got with Honey in the bot lane and then their mid laner popping off as well. I just want to bring us back quickly. We did see the Karma locked in for DFM. It is a bit more of one of those flexible picks, but it's also something that Harp really, really likes playing. So potentially, we've got AD carry center on the cards.
And that would be really cool to see it paired up. That's a very aggressive lane state that we'd be seeing from this team, and hopefully they'd be able to pivot through that and look for early drakes if possible. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Karma slotted into one of these solo lanes. Whilst it's not as popular, it's still an opportunity for DFM to create a little bit more space within draft, especially considering their blue side. Just slotting in Karma here gives them so much flexibility in terms of how they want to handle these lanes.
As is going to be the Sejuani locked in, likely going into the top side. Not really a surprising pick anymore. It's kind of where she's found her home, and it is a weak side champion for Paz, implying a bit more room for Jet.
Yeah, and this Sejuani has been talked about since spring as a potential top lane opportunity, beating the likes of Cho'Gath and some of these other tanks that have been in meta, obviously, for a lot longer, but never really sat in a comfortable position for players to lock them in early on. I think Sejuani has a lot of really good matchups in top side and actually has a lot of damage threat as well. So whilst DFM seem comfortable to lock in this Kayle as an answer to that, as something that can scale relatively easy into that, I think Ebby's still going to have to play very cautiously in this lane because the level 6 kill threat combined with Paz being on this Wukong, the access that this lane has to ganks is very, very heavy. So hopefully Ebby and Steel will be able to navigate that properly.
It does feel like a little bit of an ego pick, almost the Shy-esque in terms of where it's slotted in here, but it does offer a lot of late game damage. Another champion that offers that late game damage is this Victor, but hold on, immediate response with the Yone.
And okay, let's cover this line for line because you talked about the Kayle being a bit of an ego pick coming in for Evie, but what player better to lock this something in like this? I'm a really big fan of this, specifically within LPL. As you mentioned the Shy. This has been a very comfortable pick for a lot of top laners in that meta, and they've been doing pretty good on it. Combine that with the Victor coming in for Yahoo, I think Jet was very eager to counterpick that if possible. This is a safety pick for this player. In return, Jet goes, okay, let's go in on all quarters. They lock in the Yone, which synergizes super well with that Sejuani. It gives pseudo engage to follow up on that initial engage from the Sejuani as well. And you have a secondary carry to play through within Jet. And Jet, what a standout player to put on something as pivotal as this kind of pick.
Yeah, it also has so much like backline access with that Fate Shield. You can dive into the backline, potentially catch out something like the Kayle, who really doesn't want to be dealing with a Yone right on top of her, paired up with Wukong as well. Feels like we've got a little bit of a budget Yasuo Diana combo there.
Indeed, and the beauty of this kind of a lock-in is that combined with the Wukong, there's ways to burn through some of the key disengage tools from DFM safely with that Fate Shield. So gonna hope that he can navigate these fights because Yone, as well as having access to backline, he's also a very vulnerable champion if he doesn't use his skills correctly. So Jet, all eyes are on you to make sure that, especially once mid-game hits and once actual team fights start, that you can navigate through these fights properly, because the amount of pure damage coming out from especially 2-item Victor, the Senna, and the Kayle on top of that, especially after level 11, is going to be very scary to think about as a melee carry.
And I love the drafts that we have got here. Really feels like they epitomize the way that both of these teams want to play as we are loading onto our Rift for the final game of day one of the LJL Summer Split. The defending champions DFM taking on the challengers of Sengoku.
And considering our predictions, I feel like we have split goals coming into our final game of the day, because I am very eager for Sengoku to pick up the meta as much as possible, and combined with this specific style of drafting, I think they were very blessed to be given red side to have that opportunity to give counterpick towards Jet, because this is how they played in Spring Split. This is very a defined play where Jet pulled a lot of bans specifically in second rotation from like stuff like the LeBlanc and the Ari, which he was very focused on getting within that second rotation, and had to pull out stuff like this instead. Some of these less meta picks that he felt like he could specifically target the lane and synergize with his comp.
And they are picks that rely on your hands. And Jed has got some pretty damn good hands.
He's got fingers. Yeah, I've heard he's got fingers and a thumb. That's all facts coming out.
Confirmed Sengoku's mid laner has hands. That's very good. But then, sort of on the other side here for DFM, I'm seeing a lot of scaling picks in the Keystone Rune choices as well. We've got the first strike taken for Yaharong, which not too surprised to see on the Victor, and actually on this Karma as well.
So I don't know about the first strike on the Karma. I feel like the first strike on the Victor might actually be a little bit greedy. A lot of Victors can default into the first strike when something like the Airy can give actually a lot more space within lane to bully some of these melee matchups. It seems like they're very focused on hitting this mid game and being able to spike super hard on that golden Karma that first strike allows you once you hit your first item, as they're playing very aggressively in the spot side, and this is really that presence of the double melee match, double range matchup combined with Senna and Karma both having fantastic level 1s.
And this sort of playstyle is something that Harp really brought to DFM in spring. It's this aggressive style of laning. It's being up and in your face, and obviously he's a guy that can play sort of multiple styles of support, but when he's in lane throwing out these mantra keys on Karma, I feel like that's when he's happiest.
Yeah, I think his Karma play from last split was a real highlight for us. But looking at his play set from last split, he's played 11 unique champions. Harp has, and to be fair, and a lot of the members from DFM, as Yarong's going to get traded onto the mid lane here, a lot of the members from DFM have pretty wide pools, as Yaharong's chunked very low there, and this is the issue with going into this first strike, is it can actually make you a little bit vulnerable in lane. If you can't build up that HP advantage early on, suddenly Jet's more eager to look for these trades like this.
Yeah, that gold in your pocket isn't particularly useful until you spend it. Fortunately though, for the DFM mid laner, once is going to be spotted out, so you can play a little bit safer around a potential gank in the mid lane. No, just going for that scuttle. I'm going to be heading back towards his top side.
And look at this top lane. Paz being actually quite smart here. So he's going to pull the wave just a little bit and get a ward in that top side. And that's not to scout out if that camp is clear, but also to scout out if Steel is going to be returning to that top side after his reset as well. You'll see reset should be coming in very shortly. And that's going to give a lot of information if he does get picked up heading straight towards that Gromp again, because then they're going to know his generalized pathing for the next 2 minutes and hopefully be able to play around that appropriately.
Because Viego is one of these champions who feels like a little bit of a halfway house between a farming jungler and a ganking jungler. That Spectrum Ore can provide a lot of pick CC, but he's also a champion that scales actually pretty effectively with items. So spotting out where he's going to be keeps your lanes a little bit safer, and maybe means that you can go for some aggressive plays of your own onto the DFM jungler.
That's the big thing, is that so long as they know that Steel is on top side, it gives Honey and NT a lot more space in this lane to go, okay, we can actually maybe force a fight here because we know that Steel isn't hanging in the back lines.
But as it stands, they can't really force anything, as Honey's, well, he's already been forced back. Guardian prot there, and we're seeing a 14 CS lead. That's basically 2 waves ahead for Harp here on the Karma already.
And something really cool actually is that it looks like Utapon is going for Fasting Senna, so that's in combination with Harp playing into this more AP variant build in the Karma. I'll be interested to see whether that's a Leandris or a Ludens as they're looking for the fight here.
Alcove Gaming from NT as he pops himself behind at Utapon. Summoner spells still available for the DFM bot lane, but they are taking their time in using them. Just going to be the flash burnt by Utapon there, and Jet, no level 6. This would be a risky dive.
And Jet is giving up a whole wave in mid-side for this as well. So they were very eager to try and find something, but it looks like Utapon's going to get away with this for free. And yeah, as mentioned, Utapon going into this Fasting Senna, that's going to put a lot more emphasis on him to get on map and pair up with his team. I think there's been some conversation over which AD carry wants to, when you're doing this Fasting Senna, who wants to be on the center, who wants to be on map and playing that more supportive role within the early game until you hit that 80, normally what you used to do before was you get 80 stacks and then you transition into farming.
Yeah.
Not sure if that's going to be the case. The thing with like Senna is it feels like every other patch, fundamentally the way that you're meant to play her changes. As still realizes that he can't take the Drake as once is in the area. Jet still applying pressure in the mid lane. But something that we didn't really have time to touch on in the pregame was the changes that Sengoku have actually made, bringing in Vital out of the LCK challenges, a particularly strong AD carry when they've already got Honey on the roster.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see if that's more of a nurturing talent kind of thing, or if genuinely time is going to be split out between these two players. We have yet to see. I'm excited for it. I like it when we have this diversity in AD carry pools. We saw this a lot within Season 6 and Season 7 within mid lane, where, I mean, T1 were the biggest ones, right? Where they flex between two players on completely different pools and champions. I want to see if maybe this is something Sengoku are going to be looking towards too, because Honey very locked in, well, maybe not locked in, but Honey very eager to play the Jinx first of all, and the Aphelios last season, which was pretty much pick or ban.
Yeah, very much the sort of easy Hoon out of that duo. I remember he loved to play stuff like the Azir, like these sort of like longer range late game scaling control mages, and Faker was the guy playing a lot more of the aggressive early game picks.
They've returned to neutral now, which is cool because I get to talk about Vision. So you can see it's pretty scattered at the moment, but red side has taken a bit of a nice grasp within top side. This is something you want to see defaulted onto Kale, especially within the first 6 levels. But the bigger thing is it gives access for ganks like this.
As going forward there with the Arctic Assault, but doesn't quite find the knock-up. Stun connecting through onto Ebby, who uses the Divine Judgment. Cyclone going to be as well, but they don't have enough damage to take out the Kale.
Oh, but the big thing though is that it doesn't matter if they don't find the kill there. I would have really loved to have seen them keep the wave, slow pushing into red side. Instead they set up this slow push because Ebby's TP is gone, as well as his mana has been heavily restricted now. Completely run out of mana, which means that if Paz is able to play around this pressure correctly, he should be able to choke Ebby out of a lot of CS coming into this. He has to flash away from that combo. Very scary position to be in.
Yeah, and you're already losing on the bot lane, getting waves continually shoved into you, and missing that summoner spell isn't going to help. No kills going down as of yet in the early game, but definitely feels like it's been DFM who have had the lion's share of the pressure everywhere apart from this mid lane.
Yeah, they managed to build themselves up a 700 gold lead through entirely their own laning phase. There's a big flank from Steel.
Jet able to ult over the wall. Doesn't really have many places to go. Just jumping into the wolf camp and gonna go for a bit of a
he's going for a stroll.
Bit of a Teetles around the rift. Shouldn't be taken out. I mean, just burning the ultimate from that gank when you were that far extended up, it has to feel like a little bit of a dub, but Has there not going to be ganked by Steel, instead opting to go towards this Rift Herald.
Yeah, I guess they know Jet's off the map. This is going to be a big facilitator for some of these fights, combined with both of those ultimates being burnt in topside. Steel's super happy to go, okay, well, there's no real skirmishing power coming up from this comp anymore. I can look for this Herald freely.
And as we just look at that scoreboard briefly, seeing CS pretty much even across the board. Honey has caught up to half in that bot side as Jet trying very aggressively onto Yaharong. This is kind of what you can do on the Yone, as we are seeing a little bit of an all-in, actually a fair chunk of damage onto the Jinx, who's forced to flash away. No real follow-up from DFM, but getting 2 summoners off of that AD carry is going to feel amazing.
Yeah, especially considering Steel is now level 7, hasn't had access to use that Heartstopper yet, but is on map now, and especially after clearing through his top side, he should be heading towards his bot side any moment, but it looks like instead he's going to have to play catch up on the top wave. This gives away so much information from DFM. This is actually a really big loss, and maybe that ego pick from the Kale actually not working out too great for them so far, as you can see him starting to bleed now finally within this lane.
Did make a Death Rocket just being a bit rude onto Utapon. I mean, Ebby's even on CS, and a Kale who's even on CS is always going to be terrifying, because that means that she hasn't really been pressured at the point that she is weakest in the game. So I would imagine that we're going to start to see a bit of a differential actually emerge in the later levels in Ebby's favor. But for the time being, still fairly low action. And I have to ask, which composition do we feel like this favors? Because I'm seeing a Jinx and a Yone on one side who do have a lot of scaling and a lot of damage, but pretty much 5 scaling champs for DFM.
I mean, my favorite thing to do with scaling comps is ask who has the tanks, because I feel like that actually ends up contributing a lot to how you can stance for these fights. And hey, look at that. They have a Sejuani on top side for Sengoku. So towards that, one's kind of caught out.
Is going to go back. Double knock up with a Cyclone is still using the Heartbreaker and going forward himself, but gets thrown into the air. Not quite 35 minutes for that first blood, and we're going to get a second as Once claims that one. Good stuff from Sengoku.
Yeah, they're playing very patiently there. Once kind of, I think, knew that he had members rotating.
Paz turning around, Ebby! Divine Judgment, but it's not going to buy you enough time. Flashes over the wall! God, Ebby, that was close.
That was very dangerous from him, as just trying to find a trade in the mid lane. No. Okay. A set of events has just occurred. It's now
it's not done.
It's not done.
Oh, that's a beautiful dodge away from the tongue lash. The zap still connects though. Flashes back over the wall. Action starting to happen.
Yeah, and that ignite for the flash there, really not playing in for the benefit of topside. And we get to see the patience here from Once. He plays through, especially his clone, very smart here, duking the occasional skill shot and avoiding specifically this gravity well. So important to set up this fight here. Now, even though a lot of the skill shots and fighting tools from Sengoku miss, it's the numbers that matter. Yeah. And combined with this finale of a buffer here from Jet to play perfect, he times that Q perfectly to avoid the majority of CC from Senna's W. Gets to pick up 2 kills there. Very big.
And where was Harp during that fight? He was farming in bot lane.
Good for him.
Someone should take down this. The
big thing is though, is that because he was remaining within bot side, and whilst they did end up giving 2 kills over, they immediately get 2 because of the Herald pilot through this bot side, through those plates being taken, and take that first turret there. And it looks like this is going to be another exchange for them. They got that first turret goal going straight into Karma's build, and it does look like we see a AP build coming out. The Leandries has been picked up, which is pretty credible considering he's playing against 2 bruisers and a tank.
But definitely a bit more unusual. I'm all for it. And Harp, obviously being the Karma master, knows what he is doing. I like that we've seen these trades though. It feels like neither of these teams has really been forced to contest stuff, but we did see that beneficial fight for Sengoku. DFM then could some of the Herald in bot lane take the tower, but they have to reset, so Sengoku gets the Drakes. It's slightly interactive League of Legends, but I do want to see these teams go a bit more hell for leather.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be waiting for that once Mythics get purchased, because those big spikes for specifically the Yone as well as his Victor in the mid lane, we're seeing double Leandries actually come out from this comp, so this is something I'm not so much of a fan of. That Leandry does not stack, so you're going to be missing out on a bit of potential damage there. And you mentioned already that the Karma, this Leandry build, maybe a little bit off meta. Now, a lot of people have been having the conversation of Karma being very easily, even with the farming Karma, can opt into these support items. The AP curve is very similar, and in time you wouldn't be hitting that miss synergy. But clearly they want as much damage as possible against, you can argue, a very damage heavy comp from Sengoku. So trades and trades, I guess.
Trades, and Ebby being shoved in the top lane. Did spot out Once, who was attempting a lane gank, but now top side of Sengoku is going to start roaming towards the mid lane. Steel is caught out here, knocked into the air by the Abyssal Dive, and here comes the Wukong. Sejuani's here as well. Harp caught out with a Glacial Prison, and the Super Mega Death Rocket from Honey secures the kill.
And this is something that comes off of actually a benefit from Sengoku that is kind of unforeseen. DFM unlocking that turret in the bot side means that Jet has free space when this wave is slow pushing into his bot wave. He has 30 seconds to play with here, and this gives him the timer to rotate into mid lane and play through his team before that wave crashes in bot side. It's the small things like that you can account for that really make these kinds of plays successful, and now even through their gold deficit, they're finding small gains like that.
And this is why we were so excited about this matchup, because Sengoku are one of those teams that can stand up to DFM, that can contest them, that could put themselves in beneficial positions versus one of the most winningest teams in League of Legends history. 15 minutes on the clock. Small tower plate gold and small gold advantage for DFM, but the lion's share of the pressure has been going for Sengoku. Stun secured by Paz and can Arctic Assault away.
Yeah, and as these side lane turrets, and especially the fighting around mid becomes more centered, we're going to see Yaharong and Ebby kind of rotate into different matchups that probably greater benefit them. And Yaharong specifically going to probably end up against Paz so that Ebby can stay in that safety, well, I say safety in quotation marks, the safety lane that would be Yone with Jet on the bot side.
Recall going to be interrupted. No mythic yet for the Yone. That is a massive spike, likely going towards the Immortal Shield Bow. Could provide you so much sustain and staying power in a lot of these fights. And when you are up against a high damage composition like DFM's, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, especially with durability patch now, you get a little bit more value out of that shield as well, although I think it got nerfed, so maybe that's probably not true. Nonetheless, loving shields, love defensive capabilities, especially with such a damage fronted comp as well. You want to, as you mentioned, you want to last long. As we see DFM continually rotate into this mid lane and this vision fight happen back and forth, I think we should project our minds to the next Drake, because Cloud Soul on the map, combine that with both sides having a Drake apiece, and you mentioned already DFM by and large having the scaling opportunities for their team, even if you take into the fact that Sengoku have a tank, they have this Sejuani available. There's really an emphasis on Sengoku to get as much vision around this Drake now and look for this soul if they can, even with it being one of the lesser souls, one of the lesser prioritized souls, because that can really set up some of these win conditions, because they are playing almost solely through their key ultimates like the Glacial Prison, like the Face Sealed.
Yeah, and whilst the movement speed that you do get from the Cloud Soul doesn't seem immediately powerful, I feel like movement speed is one of those really undervalued stats where if you could just get to a fight a little bit sooner, if you could just dodge that one skill shot that would have CC'd you and taken you out, you actually end up finding a lot more winning fights than you'd otherwise expect.
Yeah, I still have flashbacks to Aurelion Soul meta when he would lead mid lane at level 2 and go rotate bot side. It was movement speed is mad.
Pretty OP. What was it? Who he against RNG was it? MSI 2016 or something.
Oh my god, yes. The flashbacks. The only Aurelion Soul player in pro play.
He was so good at that pick. Really was.
He rotated into support, didn't he? Oh, yeah, no, I shouldn't be talking.
He's been doing really well. Youthspawn not having fun though. Divine Judgment and Flash use a lot of resources to keep the AD carry alive.
God, it's hard to start talking about general conversation and then NT's just like, yeah, okay, let's start fighting now. I'll throw a what's it called? Umbral Voyage?
Oh, the what the
Dash.
Tongue Pinch dash?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. The down and up.
I've caught you up. Down and up. We'll call it that. Now, big thing is that DFM seem to have gone for an exchange of objectives here. They've gone towards this Herald, and this gives the space for Sengoku to look for this Drake. And this is, I think, to the benefit of DFM. We talked about already Sengoku wanting this soul, but with this more early game, mid game focused composition, we'd really want to see them contesting steal.
Oh, you can't be standing there, mate. Thrown back into the team, flashes away, goes over the wall, somehow stays alive.
They try to CC chain him, but it's not enough. And in return for that, though, Paz still managed to pick up a top lane turret on the bot lane turret on the bot side. So through that pick, through almost a really good CC combination, still managed to get out with his life.
I'm getting worried though, and I think the Jet should probably be worried as well. No ultimate
TP
available on the Yone, but TP is going to come through from Paz. A lot of CC available from that Sejuani, and obviously 2 melee champs. Stack up the passive so quick. Steel is gone. Yaharong's knocked into the skies. The rocket comes through from Honey, and he's just one auto away. The railgun keeps the victory. Honey is forward, but can't quite find the kill. Ebby pops himself over the wall, but maybe has overextended his harp. Just dodges away from the knockup once. On the other side of the fighters, there goes the Kale. Somehow, only one person dies.
Oh, and what just catalyzing into just a single pick is absolutely crazy, because it seemed like Sengoku had by and large, the control over that fight. They had their members rotating first. They were always playing on the aggression there, but nonetheless, they get a single kill. And Paz now getting run down by Heart. They might actually find a kill here.
Yeah, potentially the Leandri's burn is ticking. Youthspawn going under the tower. Sejuani just tanky enough. Ooh.
Yeah, wow, durability patch benefiting both teams, I guess, as finally now Sengoku has to play back, and we get to see this fight come out. And 2 things I want to keep your eyes on here as we go through this fight is look at Yaharong's ulti and how Jet uses his E to avoid a lot of the CC combo from here. So Yaharong drops the ulti early here, completely flubbing out on Jet. Then combine that with Jet, look at this E, so clean. He gets to dodge the only CC that would really matter there, and then the rest of Sengoku are already moving up topside. This fantastic ulti from the Jinx, really sealing the deal. Well, we think so anyway, before the shielding came in.
Yeah, and Honey flashing aggressively there, but Yaharong just going out of vision, so auto attack not coming through. Once looking for a flank on the side, and ultimately the fact that no one else went down is kind of crazy, given how many cooldowns were burnt and invested into that fight. But it's still DFM with a big fat 0 on the scoreboard at 20 minutes into the game. That's not something that we see very often.
Yeah, and through these small kills that Sengoku found, they've actually managed to find themselves in a small gold lead as well. Remember, they were in deficit around that 12-minute mark, so they've suddenly managed to build that up. But it does show Sengoku's reliance on the Glacial Prison. They're really having to play through the Sejuani as their initial catalyst to start these fights, and it showed there because once they found the kill into Ebby, they didn't really have anything else remaining to continue the fight onwards and find more kills.
Yeah, it's a rough one as taking some bases in this topside river. Once maybe overstepping here, but should be fine as Jet just going over the wall, saying hello to Steel, and pops straight back. I love that. That's a brilliant ability, very well designed. As starting to see some itemization, breakpoints hit. Honey now got that rapid fire cannon. Mortal Reminder completed for Jet as well. 2 items on these carries is pretty scary.
Yeah, the Zeal secondary comes in quite often in Yone when you're able to hit targets, and specifically in side lane, he's going to be spending a lot of time against Kayle, so I'm assuming he wants to get that lethal tempo procced as quickly as possible and find these jewels if he can, because this is going to grant a lot of space for his team. As soon as Kayle starts grouping with the team, it becomes very difficult for you to pick up these individual members with tools like the Glacial Prison as he's looking for the kill in topside.
Divine Judgment used and keeps Ebby alive. Could secure the Gromp as well. Has been farming up a storm on this Kayle, 208. Actually, Yaharong also doing well. Farm numbers pretty happy across the board for a lot of these carries. Jet once again stood pretty far up in the top side. No TP available for any other members of Sengoku.
Keep your eyes on the boss side throughout this. So not only are Sengoku now getting a lot of space from this mid lane to get this shove in, even without them having picked up this mid lane turret yet, they also get space on the Drake, but now Jet's looking for the fight on top side, and I don't know if he's able to take this.
Yeah, still 3 levels down, but I think with Yaharong just in the lane, offering a bit of moral support, if nothing else, to the Viego. Top lane tower is going to be falling down. All of the outer towers on the map taken, bar that mid lane for DFM, which is really keeping strong in that mid side, keeping a lot of pressure secured for our million-time champions.
And that staggered play from DFM where they rotated Yaharong late into topside after Ebby had to fall back was really smart, because they have Harp and Utapon, these wave clear carries that don't get threatened underneath this turret. Obviously that was an exchange for this Drake control for all the vision that they give, so Sengoku are happy to pick up this Drake, but as mentioned, it's a Cloud Soul. That it's not this team fight turnaround option that you see from the Hex Tech, from the Infernal. They'd be able to slot it in. So I think DFM have managed to roll the dice quite well this game.
It is intriguing that they have let that one go, but obviously not valuing the Cloud Drake as much. You could definitely make the argument there, and it's been a quiet game from both of these teams. We've had moments, we've had explosive patches of play, but for the most part it has just been a lot of farming. Interesting to see a Hex Drinker being built onto Honey here. Obviously pretty scared of the double AP solo lanes that DFM have got.
Yeah, I mean, Ebby as well also optimizing towards that EP build, so a lot of magic damage coming up from DFM, and that's why we see key itemization like this Void Staff second coming for Yaharong. There's been a lot of conversation over Demonic Embrace recently, and by and large, the numbers seem to hold up better for Void Staff second, so we're happy to see that slotted in. Combine that with, it means he can properly curve quite easily into potentially a Rabadon's third if he was looking towards just raw damage.
And I'm intrigued by what Sengoku are doing here, because 5 members in the mid lane. Glacial Prison just going wide onto Utapon, but still able to fire out a fair few rockets into this mid lane tower. DFM may fancy this fight. Ebby, level 14, pretty strong on this Kayle, but that mid lane tower still standing is really hurting Sengoku.
Yeah, and once again, we had to consider the scaling options between these teams, because there's that ticking timer there. Just like the Castin, Kayle level 16 is very threatening towards any kind of composition, and whilst Jinx and Yone, as mentioned, very high scaling champions, they have this Sejuani to play through as well. Senna, Kale, this potential late game scanning that will hit after 35 minutes is so scary to deal with, and we're seeing it start to show its head a little bit here as DFM are starting to play more aggressive. This group up really big from them to try and pick up this mid lane tier 2 turret.
Jet is split pushing though, just backing away as DFM momentarily drop out of vision steal, looking for a play onto NT though. Damage traded pretty heavily into that time pitch, but Evie has been kind of locked up at the front of this fight, able to flash away from the Cyclone, and Sengoku can't quite catch the Kale.
This is back and forth of fighting, as mentioned. You had to be really cautious to who you blow your ultimates on, because they want to look for the Kale first. They want to look for this Victor if they can. Those are the only two targets they need to be blowing their options on, because they are limited in that. They have to combo with each other. The Sejuani has to lead into the Fate Sealed, or Jet will not be able to find damage in a fight.
Well, we really just saw that there. Not enough damage for Sengoku, and you have to feel that DFM, as this game gets later, and as they can get more souls on this Senna, more stacks on this Victor. That was kind of rude, Steal.
That was a naughty steal. Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. Is that
I'm sorry for just leaving you there, man.
No, it's great. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you. Just lead me astray. No, you hit the nail on the head. We're going to be keeping very firm eyes on Sengoku and how they start to navigate these fights, because suddenly DFM, they're taking the aggressive stance. So, yeah, Glacial Prison, Paz specifically, one of these players who we said maybe actually might suffer a little bit into Ebby. Ebby, one of the, maybe the strongest individual member in the LJL. That's how I felt in Spring Split. And on this Kale as well, a looming threat coming into mid game.
Sengoku once again trying to push mid lane, but once again DFM forcing them back. CC onto Paz isn't going to stick too hard as it's a beautiful usage of the clone, but Honey is still being chased down. No one falling on Sengoku yet, and the Jinx is just a little bit out of reach for the Ago. Overstep from Still Punish, as here comes in dives Enti with the Abyssal Voyagers. Ebby has no flash to get out of this fight. The Divine Judgment comes through, but you are guilty of trying to step to Sengoku. They're going to turn towards the Baroness. DFM actually continuing to pump out the damage due to Pon. With the Kraken Slayer is thinking about it, 30% HP on everyone on Sengoku. They can't take the objective.
And this is the power of the DFM comp, with that 3 carry comp still alive. It's so hard to look for any objectives after a fight, especially a messy fight that was shown there, as Victor lasers, Karma, Senna's range all comes into fruition to stop them from being able to continue for any objectives. And we can see this fight here, and look at the tunneling on Honey. I think was really DFM's downfall here, as they continually thought, that's the one target we need to kill, that's going to catalyze the fight. And this means that here, blown up completely, didn't respect the amount of damage Honey could turn around, and then from that point on, DFM were playing in deficit.
Yeah, it's disconnected is not a word that I would usually use to describe DFM, but I think is absolutely applicable for that fight. We've got a little bit of action on our screens, as once is going to be starting up this Drake. Soul for Sengoku, and look at the lane assignments from DFM. Yaharong in Narnia, Ebby maybe not quite in Narnia, maybe just in the wardrobe, still not able to get over to that Drake, and that's a soul point for Sengoku, uncontested.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how this uncontested soul plays out for Sengoku, because yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Cloud Soul. I feel like, especially compared to the power levels of some of the other Drakes, Mountain Drake as well has risen up quite a lot in power after the durability patch. It seems like any other Drake is preferable to Cloud Drake in the majority of situations. So we're going to be looking at specifically how Sengoku can apply it to their fights, how best they can, I mean, the only synergy that I'm thinking of that could really benefit is Enti having access to all that move speed on the usage of his ulti is going to benefit Honey so much in surviving some of these longer fights.
It is a bit abstract. I would just say I think the Cyclone is a big one. I think that you see so many fights where the Wukong just doesn't quite get onto the ADK with that big AoE knockup, and a little bit of move speed is going to be excellent in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, we are 30 minutes into the game, and DFM do not have a single kill on the board, but nonetheless, they are in a gold advantage, and they are standing up to Sengoku.
Yeah, it feels like even without them finding a single kill, this is to their game plan, so it be, as they've looked for a couple. They looked for Honey in the last fight and they failed to find that So. But other than that, they haven't really been too bloodthirsty. They've been using their pressure to force Sengoku into giving up key objectives like this mid lane tier 1, which has remained standing 30 minutes into the game. DFM still have a hold of their top lane, mid lane tier 1, and that frustration is starting to show now as Sengoku are looking for this Baron. They're nuking it very low.
Yeah, DFM are going to be forced to fight for this one. Ebi doesn't have the TP, so he's going to be late to join this fight. Wukong secure that once with the play, but Jet going into the backline doesn't quite find the ultimate. Immortal Shieldbow keeps him alive. And there's no reset for Steel. The Yone is forced to flash away, but DFM are still on the chase. Railgun throw now, NT. About 400 HP, but can still dash away. Ebi, level 16, coming through on the side. This is where the KL is meant to be powerful, but the Chomp has cut her off. Still, no kills for DFM, and Sengoku claim the Baron.
Yeah, wins and losses for Sengoku there, as Jet's forced to burn that flash after the Baron's taken because they aren't able to find his kills. And this means that we're seeing how this DFM comp is coming into the finale of its play. Even through the Baron being taken, either through Sengoku forcing DFM into quite an offensive stance, they were unable to find a single kill and actually ended up having to run away from DFM's comp, even with the Baron enabled. So I'm interested now because Sengoku have 2 minutes to play with this Baron. How are they going to be able to seize these turrets with that looming threat of this triple carry comp, this triple scaling carry comp coming out from DFM?
What a weird game we've got on our hands.
Yeah.
We've got DFM no kills at 30
It's funky.
minutes. Sengoku with as many late game objectives as they could get at this point in the game, and Honey sat on a full more of the Malmortius, absolutely terrified of this Kale and this Victor. Steel potentially overstepping here, but Paz doesn't quite find him, throwing the Glacial Prison the wrong way. The Diego can go over the wall, and once again, no one dies.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this more Mortius coming out from Honey. Now, magic damage definitely very heavy on DFM. Is just going to look for the fight, but he's getting absolutely shredded by Ebi and has to just walk away.
So much damage on the Kale at this point in the game. Not even 3 completed items, but still an absolute terror in the side lane and in the team fights as well. Once just not quite finding the engage onto Ebi. Bot lane tower going to be taken out, though. This is good for Sengoku. They're at least extending their Baron play, getting some more gold there. I need to see some more sieging from them, though. We may have that in the mid lane as Paz taking about half HP on the Sejuani. Still a pretty tanky customer, though.
And yeah, they unlock one tier 2, but it seems like they're still having to play so cautiously. Honey's very caught out here. I don't know if DFM had the damage to pick him off, though, so he just gets to walk out for free. And itemization here. This more of Mortius is hurting Honey's DPS so much. Now it gives them a lot of safety into this complement. That's maybe where they want to be playing towards. They want to keep him alive for as long as possible so that he can pump out more damage in return. But this puts Sengoku playing on a very strict timer now. They have to get an eye on this Jinx, so they really want her to be the primary character for this comp within the late game, and that's 2,000 gold away.
It's going to be rough. Not sure the exact gold values, but that pickaxe will go into an Infinity Edge at some point. Elder in a minute and a half's time. DFM, you're going to get some kills around this one either way. Either you're getting kills or you're getting killed. We are going to have a fight at this objective, and it's probably going to decide the game.
Yeah, I feel like we've once again, we're entered into LCK territory. We're in the position now where we're looking for a single fight to immediately deal into the game-ending kind of play. That gives us the opportunity to talk about, hey, look at this. Yaharong, level 17 on this Victor. 3 items completed. Ebi, level 16. Kale is fully activated at this point. On top of that, Last Whisper possibly being able to be converted into that final penetration item onto Utapon as Paz been playing Deficit, and we look at Honey, and maybe once they get in this fight, they could look for it. Drake in under a minute.
So close at this point of the game. This game is so important. DFM went 19-2 last split, and if Sengoku hope to match them in the regular split, every game matters. Jet going in, going out. Glacial Prison used, but there isn't quite the follow-up source, Sengoku. DFM may look to turn it around. The Gravity Field buying time as Steel. Not quite finding the Spectrum onto Honey, who is returning with rocket damage. Elder Drake now on the table. DFM stuck in the mid lane. Sengoku in the river. Damage still being thrown down. Reset is going to come out from Paz. He's got the TP. He's fine. He can rejoin this fight. Still looking for it, though. So tense. Jet
And
going
this
into the
neutral
back line. Look for
benefits
Yutama,
DFM.
doesn't fight it with the ultimate. The Yone is out of the fight, but look at Yaharog's HP bar. It is non-existent. Honey raining down with rockets as NT secures the knock-up. And Emmy dead. Sengoku with the first kill of the fight. Harp is going to be falling low too. Going to be falling down. That may have just put the nail in DFM's coffin. Elder Drake now the focus.
Yeah, Harong still has TP though. He can influence this fight once again, but it's getting shredded oh so quickly. I don't think there's any way for DFM to contest this. That's Elder now as well. We just ticked another late game objective off from Sengoku's cheat sheet. Now we're going to see what they can do with it, because this Baron was so limited, but the pure fighting power of this Elder may change things significantly.
And look at the top left of your screen. We're going to see that in a bit. This replay, this fight was massive for Sengoku.
Yeah, and Honey not pumping out huge amounts of damage, but also look how offensive he's able to play. Combine that with Jet, even with this flub, pulling out so much pressure, and that in turn puts Yaharong in such a tricky spot, completely taking up the fight. Steel as well, so DFM are playing the remainder of this fight 3v5, and look at the Paz honestly doing such a fantastic job of being that frontline threat, pushing forward to ensure that Honey can safely click again and again in combination with this build. Really benefits him, and now he's on the IE as well. This is a huge spike for this Jinx, and probably a big turnaround point, as we've seen actually a different build come out from Jet as well. Also very, very smart. This MR item 4th come out, which will really benefit against, once again, a very magic damage heavy comp from DFM.
Yeah, he would have gone down in that last fight if it hadn't been for the extra resistances, that extra HP, and Sengoku utilizing this Elder buff to secure position around the Baron and to get another objective. They have got double, triple late game buffs for the next minute. They have to get something off this, otherwise DFM can keep scaling. Jet diving under the tower onto Steel, the Glacial Prison used as well, but it's only 70% HP on the DFM jungler, and those are two big tools used.
The siege continues now, and Sengoku are just absolutely shredding out these turrets. That's the first inhib gone. I'm cautious about this though, as Sengoku, if they continue to pressure out this base, very vulnerable to some of the really long range damage threats that can poke out. This Karma as well as this Victor can really hold onto these waves. It looks like Ebby's forced to TP in to stop this potential game ending play. We're going to see how this fight starts.
This is it. Honey with the rockets. Ebby needs to be the carry for DFM. Needs to secure their first kill of this game if they are going to be able to stand up. Nexus Tower number 1 goes down. The minions pushing into the wave with the Baron buff up. Ebby trying to clear them with the waves of damage, but it may not be enough. Initial engage coming through onto Steel, who's taken low, and Ebby using the Divine Judgment so early on the side. First kill, second kill, Sengoku with the Elder Drake execution! Cut off the head of DFM, take out the Nexus, and secure their first win of summer.
We talked about the scaling options from DFM, but we didn't talk about the comp itself and the amount of magic damage completely, and I think it showed there. Eventually, Jet and Honey entered a position where they weren't under damage threat from the key members of DFM. It meant they get to play fight slow, they get to pressure more effectively around these objectives, and then in that finale there, they get to play under turrets as well, as Jet specifically forcing that ultimate out. The Divine Judgment from the Kale so early on means they can't put it on another member of the team, and they find a win, not letting DFM get a single kill. A staggering pickup from Sengoku.
That is absolutely mind-boggling. We've seen hangovers from MSI, from DFM before, but I think to lose a game in that fashion, not even finding a single kill, barely finding any objectives on the map, and while Sengoku, it felt like at times they were scrambling. DFM got an aggressive play onto them that stuck. They were never able to actually contest them in a lot of these fights, and the fact that we're looking at the endgame screen with a Sengoku win, I don't think that's going to surprise everyone. I think there were certain people that would have predicted this, but the fashion in which Sengoku secured the win, absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm now very excited for the rest of the split, because whilst DFM definitely has some adaptations that they can bring into future games based on, I would say, draft, Sengoku still look as determined as ever, as capable to be bringing into the new meta and continue these kinds of games into the lesser opponents, we would argue.
We are going to have a good split. We're going to be jumping to a short break now, I believe. Can't remember exactly how this works. And then we're going to be chatting a bit with J-Real to break down that game and to break down the day.
Well, I was not necessarily expecting that. Definitely not in that fashion. But here we are. That's just how the cookie crumbles. And yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. But let's get into this game. Obviously, let's start with the pick and bans. Now, DFM had a few interesting picks here. We've already seen the KO top, so we don't need to talk too much about that. We saw it earlier today. But Senna and the Karma in bot lane. I was a little bit surprised about that pairing. Oak, what do you make of the Karma with the Senna?
I think it's it seems to be set up as a really strong lane to be pushing through something like, as soon as you see that Kench, I feel like, yep, this combination comes in with incredible buddy threat onto this lane. It can play play for an extended period of time. Obviously, Jinx gets kind of, especially with the nerfs you saw earlier this season, she gets locked out of lane a little bit sometimes through her mana, and so did a fantastic job of restricting that, and then the Senna scales oh so well. Problem is, the scaling from the rest of DFM's comp got gimped quite a lot by that magic damage.
Yeah, and then on the flip side, a couple of picks that they're not new, but they haven't been seen for a little bit. Yone, Sejuani coming through mid-court. Were you a bit of a fan of this? Because they seem to play out pretty well.
Well, I think you just have to look at myself and Oak's reactions when the Yone came through at the end. I'm not actually sure that Jet actually connected on a Fate Sealed ultimate at any point in that fight. Yutspon and Yaharong were pretty good at dodging those out, but he was still able to find a lot of aggressive plays. And I think that the Sejuani was actually a bit more pivotal for Sengoku in terms of this game, because had a decent laning phase up against Evi. Wasn't demolishing him in terms of CS, but it's Evi, what can you expect? It was more about these team fights, these skirmishes, that reliable engage when you've got this this melee mid and jungle as well, can help you stack up the passive, and was really instrumental in securing a lot of the kills and the win for Sengoku.
Yeah, and well, I talk about the fashion that it was done in. It was a slow game, not many kills. 8, I believe, in total across the whole game. Maybe slightly more in that last fight, but it was 8 for a long time up until the final fight, potentially. But either way, not a bloody game. DFM didn't pick up a single kill, which I am quite surprised at. There obviously was some speculations of, would MSI change? Would the break go? Would Sengoku have evolved? All of these things. Oak, do you feel like DFM played bad, or just Sengoku played really clean?
I think a combination of clean play from Sengoku, and then I think DFM maybe not. I don't know it was like actually bad play, but it's more like not completely understanding how their comp works, because this triple damage threat that came out from DFM, they have all these late game insurance champions. The KL is notorious as well, right? But Victor and Senna also scale fantastically, so you have that to work off of. Unfortunately, they didn't account for the fact that MR items could be slotted in so easily from both the carries, and that really restricted how the KL and the Victor were able to play some of the late game fights, and it meant that actually, yeah, maybe they should have been looking for more plays around mid game if they'd been able to take that into account.
And then, like we have to say as well, like Sengoku are a great team. You know, it's not that they're like a bad team. Like the DFM had
my favorite team,
a good team. You know, so it has to be said. Let's not be stating that DFM aren't doing well, and obviously we'll have to see how they do in the rest of the split. But are you maybe a little bit worried about DFM, or is it just, okay, look, a little bit of rust, a little bit shake it off, Sengoku, great team, maybe against the other teams they'll be fine?
Well, we kind of had a similar start to summer 2021. I did allude to this on the cast. DFM actually went 0-3 at the start of that split, then didn't lose a single game until playoffs, and then went and had one of the best Worlds performances that a minor region team has ever had. So, are the alarm bells ringing? Not quite yet. I will just say, I think that the fact that they played in this fashion versus Sengoku is quite illuminating. I think that you can pick this comp versus pretty much anyone else in the league and do absolutely fine. But Sengoku denied them a lot of the opportunities. And when your composition really gets online at 40 minutes and the game ends in 38, you lose.
Yeah, that is definitely true. But shocks do happen in the league. It's what makes League of Legends so interesting. It's what we love about this league as well. You know, DFM there picking up a loss to Sengoku. Well, we'll have to see how this one pans out. But let's get to the roundup of the rest of this day. So let's kick it off with game 1. It was the Hawks versus Rascal Jesters. I think no major surprises here in terms of Rascal Jesters picking up a win. But I personally was quite impressed with the Hawks. I want to get your views on it. Oak, how did you feel about this first match?
Yeah, I felt it was closer than I expected it to be, and I think those whispers in the back of all of our mics, like, oh, Hawks, they're gonna hit fourth. They're gonna hit fourth. I'm subscribing a little bit to it because Kanatu had a fantastic performance. Something that I think was really inconsistent on last split. This Kel looked, in my eyes, very, very good and really harkens back to summer 2021, where people were saying, hey, this guy's a fantastic carry player. Combine that with some very aggressive and consistent play within mid game through this Lissandra, the ulti. They were just all on board with playing through Dasher when he popped that ulti onto, and it looked scary for Sol for a little bit, but eventually meta came in, and I think Rascal Jester drafted immaculately to fit into Hawks' comp. So yeah, good win from Rascal Jester.
Yeah, now on to game 2. We had a bit of a grudge match between the two lower place teams, V3 versus Axis. I was big sad about this one because V3 almost picked up the win. They had some great plays, but it does, in my mind, paint a picture of there are a lot of questions to answer for both these teams coming into the rest of the season.
Do we have to talk about this game, Jeriel?
Not really. We can move on.
Yeah, can we move on? I think that'd be best.
Yeah, we'll move on from V3 Axis. If you haven't watched it,
no,
maybe don't.
I thought it was a banger.
It tells you a lot. It tells you a lot about the teams, and I think that there is that essence of maybe these teams are going to do a little bit better than the last split, but it is to be seen. There are still a lot of questions. On to game number 3, Medical, we will be coming to you for this one. CJ versus Burnicore, the first game that you guys casted today. CGA looking very strong.
I mean, this is just the dream of literally every single CGA fan, the way that this was played. We saw a lot of fights around the bot side in the early game, which secured advantages for Kassin and Hybrid. And actually, Kaito as well was doing pretty good on the Zoe that game. They rotated around the map very, very cleanly and were able to use their gold lead to secure more objectives and really force Burning Core into bad positions where they didn't have any good options to play out the rest of the game.
Yeah, indeed. And I will say, Burning Core, a little bit question mark here. I feel like they are the ones that have a lot to prove after today. But, as we said, it's only day 1. There is a whole 20 other days in this season. So, if you are looking at your team and being like, we could have done a lot better today, don't worry. There is a long way left in this season. So, with that being said, we're going to play my favourite game. You guys are very aware of this one, but for you guys at home, we're going to play Mess or Impress, which is basically where I ask these casters to name who they think was the mess, who they think was the impress of today. It can be a team, it can be a player, it is up to them. We will start with you, Oak. Who is your mess for today and who is your impress?
My mess for today, it's really easy to pick from Axes and V3, so I think I'm going to lean towards, let's say, my mess was Yu-Gi-Oh, I think. I think the Zoe play was pretty underwhelming, so I'm going to go with that. My impress for sure was Paz. Very good Sejuani gameplay, picking up something new in the meta, and doing a really good job of piloting it and being the frontline tank that this team needed to pilot through the game.
Fair enough. Then for you, Middlecourt, who was your mess, who was your impress?
For the mess, I've got to go Swamp's Smite button. I think that's probably a decent one there. Obviously, Axis able to get the win up against V3 today, but their Baron setups really left a lot to be desired. So if we're talking about mess, maybe just that entire aspect of the way that Axis played, definitely something that they're going to need to shore up, playing up against the higher tier opposition. In terms of my impress, I got to give it to my boy Nema. He didn't have a great split in spring, but he was really on point with a lot of the hooks today, really committing to the aggressive style that him and Hybrid have tried to sort of work out together. And, well, I mean, you saw the gameplay today. It really paid dividends.
Yeah, indeed. And my mess, I think, is actually going to be Burning Core as a team. I feel like they seemed a little bit uncoordinated. You know, it felt a little bit underwhelming from them. I expected a lot of things. But then, because they had a really good spring split, so I'm expecting to come back a lot stronger. But it is just day 1, as I said. And my impress is actually Nap. I think Nap looked really good on the Olaf. I really enjoyed the gameplay. Shout out to him. I think it was really good. But that is going to be it from us. It has been a great way to kick off this season. Day 1, tick. It's been a success, but we are going to have to close the show. We will be back on Sunday for day 2. So make sure you come on through to this stream because you don't want to miss it.